Hello and welcome to Philm Phuckery, the unhinged podcast where I romanticize the villains, ship anything with queer attention, and obsess over films that are either genius or deeply cursed. Sometimes both. I'm your host, Spencer Jones, and this season we're diving headfirst into the chaotic comfort that is the MCU. As usual, we'll be going through 5 different prompts. We will be talking about villain effectiveness, gay undertones, logic holes, technicalities, and the most chaotic moment. This week we are talking about Captain America. I do want to apologize for being a week late with this one. I was traveling and then I got pretty sick and then I wasn't home for 3 weeks. So I appreciate everybody for being so understanding. I just didn't bank enough, unfortunately. But if you are watching this on YouTube or if you hear little purrs in the background on Spotify, that's because I haven't been home in 3 weeks and my cat will not leave me alone. So we're just going to have to deal with that. But just, if you're watching it, she is there and I do apologize. Okay. So, Captain America. This is one that I don't rewatch quite often just because I don't rewatch a lot of the initial ones a lot, but I really like this movie. So let's jump right into it. Villain effectiveness. Our main villains are Schmidt, the Red Skull, and Dr. Zola. So Schmidt, as a villain, I think he's fine. I think that I don't necessarily root for him, but I like what he represents within the MCU, I suppose, because obviously, I'm not going to root for a subgenre of Nazis, but I do appreciate that this is taking us, because we've seen Thor, which takes us outside of our realm, and I like that this one is an extension of Thor in that Schmidt is looking for Odin's treasure. He named something after the Valkyries. He's just very into like the Norse mythology of shit, and he believes in it, and he's looking for the Tesseract. And I like that this is expanding the MCU and it's evolving and it's moving beyond our world, right? So, like I said, Schmidt is technically a subgenre of the Nazis. He's head of Hydra, right? But he's kind of evolved past the Nazis in a way. He's not looking to control. I mean, I guess he is looking to control Earth, but he's not looking for what the Nazis are looking for. He doesn't really seem very interested in the Aryan race. He's not interested in anything of like the Nazi general stuff with like the people. He just is more concerned with power beyond what man can offer. And I say that in quotation marks. So he's kind of like, he's moved past what the Nazis are trying to do. He doesn't seem to like really care about it. From what we see in the movie, he's moved past the genocide of specific groups of people. He just wants power for himself. And I think that the reason he's moved beyond the Nazis is because of his like super soldier serum. He had it before Captain America, and this was when the doctor, I think it's Erskine. I could be wrong, and I'm so sorry. I should have looked it up. But when the doctor gave Schmidt the serum, it wasn't ready, and he said it burned and it turned him red and everything. He has all this power, right? He's lead of this sub-Nazi genre. But I find it interesting that they talk about how Schmidt, he still is the leader, but he's kind of been put off to the side. He's kind of been like shoved in a corner because he's not part of the Aryan race anymore. But it's kind of like he's doing good for the Nazi party. And so Hitler didn't want to get rid of him totally, but Hitler's like, well, you are red now. I'm not seeing any blonde hair or blue eyes, so like you can keep doing what you're going to do, but in this little corner. I found that interesting. Anyway, so when he's moved beyond the Nazi ideals, I guess, I think that the super soldier serum is what did that because it enhances every part of you. It enhances the good, the bad, everything. So Schmidt, he's looking for power, right? He gets the super soldier serum. He's looking extra hard for power, basically. And he learns about the Tesseract and he's like, yes, that's what I need. I need to move beyond man. And he says it, I believe, several times in the movie about how the super soldier serum has made him above regular men. And he is greater than them. And he has moved beyond what the world can offer him. So he wants more. And I think that's partly the super soldier serum enhancing every bit of him. And I also think because he took the super soldier serum and because it changed him physically, when he looks at himself, he sees someone above men, not just in his mindset, but like that changes his mindset. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, Schmidt says that he believes that because he's the Red Skull, he's beyond humanity. But he also, I feel like he wants Steve to join him because he's kind of lonely. And I don't feel bad for him, but just a little bit I feel bad for him because it's kind of sad. I don't feel bad because he is a Nazi and what he is fighting for is not really something I care about. But I feel bad in the lonely aspect of it because it must be really lonely to be the only person who's taken the super soldier serum at that time, because he feels like he's above all of these people. It's kind of like, I compare it to being really, really smart. I obviously wouldn't know what it's like to be incredibly smart in the way that it gets lonely, but I feel like if you are incredibly smart, like genius level, the highest IQ possible, and you're walking around with normal people, it just must be so lonely when no one understands you in that way. Do you know what I mean? He's above humanity. He's different. He's better. He's evolved is what he thinks, but no one else is there with him. He's alone in this. I just picture that being head of something without a second person is really lonely and sad and kind of annoying, I'd imagine. And he has Dr. Zola, but Dr. Zola is not really like above humanity in the way that Schmidt feels that he is and that he thinks Steve is as well. So anyway, speaking of Dr. Zola, this is like something very small, but the first time that we see him on screen, we see him in this magnifier thing and it like makes his face really big and it's in this giant circle. And I wonder if that symbolizes that later he gets put into that computer. I don't know if they thought that far ahead, but that was really cool for me. I don't remember when that happens, when he gets put into the computer and we see him in the computer, but I feel like it might be Civil War. I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to it probably, but the moment in the movie after Bucky has fallen to his supposed death, which we all know is not true, or if you don't know, I'm sorry, this was years ago, so you should know. But according to Steve and everybody else, Bucky has fallen to his death, right? So after this, Dr. Zola gets brought into custody. And the colonel's eating the steak and he's like, do you want this steak? And Dr. Zola's like, it doesn't agree with me. And so the colonel starts eating it. I like that part, first of all, because that's hilarious because I would eat that steak for sure. He explains to Dr. Zola that he cost Steve his best friend and now he's fucked. Steve's love for Bucky is so great. And I'm going to talk about it in a second with the gay undertones because their love for each other is so gay. But basically, everyone knows how much Steve loves Bucky. And the colonel's like, Zola, you're fucked. Steve is so vengeful that he's going to go after you because you killed his best friend. And then also, Steve is so upset by Bucky's death that I believe it's the scene where they're in the plane and they're fighting, Steve and Schmidt. Schmidt was so mad that Steve got picked by Dr. Erskine. Schmidt wasn't special enough, but Steve was. And so he's like, what made you so special? And Steve's like, nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. And he wants to rub it in so bad because he's like, first of all, he's pissed at Schmidt because his best friend died. And then also, I don't know, he's a Nazi. And Steve doesn't like bullies, right? I don't know, it was low-key out of Steve's character, but I loved it because it's like, he just wants to really drive in the knife to Schmidt because he's like, nothing made me special. You just weren't good enough. Speaking of Steve and Bucky, we're going to move into gay undertones because they're so in love with each other and no one can tell me otherwise. It's not incredibly prominent in this movie, but it builds up to it later once Peggy's gone. Obviously, the love interest is not around Bucky and Steve. It begins their love story. Okay, so when he first learns that Bucky's 107th whatever was taken, and that he might be dead or he might be captured, he gets so serious. And he's like, I don't care. I'm going to walk to Austria if I have to. It's not necessarily to be a good guy. And yes, he is a good guy. And yes, he did a good thing. But it's not, he wasn't going into every military place where people had been captured. He's going into Austria where Bucky was captured to get Bucky back. So he literally goes into enemy territory by himself with like, I'm assuming really shitty armor because he takes the shield that he's been using on stage, which can't be that good, and a helmet that the girls were dancing with, which also can't be that good. So once Steve gets into enemy territory and he releases all of the trapped people, he realizes that Bucky's not among the trapped people and he asks people where he is, Bucky's being experimented on. So he gets all of these people. I'm imagining like 50, maybe even 100. I don't know how many people, but a lot. He gets them all out. He's risked his life, and it's not enough because his best buddy's not a part of those trapped people. So he's already risked his life for all of these people. He's already gotten them all out. He now has to get them out of enemy territory, but it's not enough. He's got to risk his life even more to find one guy, his best friend, Bucky, who he's in love with so much. He's risked his life twice now to make sure that Bucky specifically gets out. That's gay as fuck. I love my friends. I really do. I probably would go to war for them. I don't know. However, I think that I would take my win of getting 50 to 100, maybe more people out, even if my best friend wasn't among those people. I don't know if it's just that I'm not as good as Steve. I don't have the super soldier serum. I don't have his will to live, or not even his will to live. I don't have his will to do what's right against my own life. I think maybe it might be that I have more of a survivalist need than Steve does. I think that he's so willing to die for the cause. He always has been. Even before the super soldier serum, that's why he was really trying to join the army. Obviously, little tiny baby Steve is not gonna make it out alive before the super soldier serum. If I'm being so honest, that little boy with asthma, hell no. So I feel like he's always been willing to lay down his life. Point is, though, they are in love, okay? That's my whole point, is that Steve will do anything to get Bucky out. And Bucky won't leave without Steve either, because when they're fighting Schmidt and there's a whole bunch of fire and everything, Steve's like, Bucky, get yourself up. Bucky's like, I'm not leaving without you. So we're going to get out of this together because I love you so much. And then this scene where they're all coming home and they're walking back into the 107th, whatever, with the Colonel and Peggy and everything. He does this little glance over to Bucky because he's so happy he got his buddy home. He's so in love with him, and he's like, thank God I got you out safe. I love you so much. So after this, they're all celebrating in the bar, right? And Bucky and Steve are talking before Peggy comes in. And Steve's like, are you really going to follow me back in? Because they're making this team so they can go back in and destroy Hydra. So they're making this little team, and Steve's like, would you really follow me into war again? Like, you just got out. And Bucky's like, I'm not following Captain America. I'm following a skinny boy from Brooklyn. But then he also is like, but I like it when you wear the suit, though. That's kind of gay. So then fast forward to when they're fighting on the train, right? They've just zip-lined down from the mountain onto the train. And Steve and Bucky are fighting those guys with the masks and the Tesseract guns or whatever. And Steve is so worried about Bucky the whole time. Steve like fights his guy. They're in separate train cars. And then he does save him. He helps him out with his guy after Steve's gotten his guy that he was fighting. And Bucky's like, I had him on the ropes. First of all, I liked the switch up. I like the reverse of like Steve saving Bucky when Bucky's been the one saving Steve, but when he was scrawny. I like that switch up. Now Bucky is the lesser. Not lesser. Bucky is the weaker, respectfully. Only because who the fuck is as strong as a super soldier, okay? Nothing against Bucky. I love him so much. So anyway, then Bucky falls. Plummets to his death, supposedly. Steve never recovered from that, by the way, ever. Because he just watched his best friend and the man who he loves. And if they were in a different time, I think that if it had been more okay for them to be gay in the time of the war, they would have been, okay? That might just be me, but that's what I think. Also, he just really never got over it. Even when Bucky came back as the Winter Soldier, Steve was still so traumatized. It's so sad. Anyway, so then he is like sobbing in the bar. He's not really sobbing, but he was, you could tell. And he's trying to get drunk, but his metabolism is so fast that he can't get drunk because of the super soldier serum. By the way, awful in a time of war. That fucking sucks. Especially when your best friend just plummets to his death. So Peggy comes in. She's trying to comfort him. She's so kind to him. And Steve, our bisexual king, he's so in love with her too. In Steve's case, he didn't get either of them. It's actually really upsetting. So anyway, let's talk about Steve and Peggy, because Peggy as a character, Haley Atwell as an actor, my God. I don't know if it's just that I haven't been with somebody in quite a while, but when I was rewatching this movie, the way that I was going absolutely feral for the way that Peggy was looking at Steve, they're so in love. Haley Atwell plays it so well. Are you kidding me? Every single scene that they're in together, every single glance that she gives him, every single thing that she says, Haley Atwell played it perfectly every single time. The badass women that are carrying the Marvel team is just phenomenal. Because Peggy, she's so tough. She's so sweet. She's so smart. She's really the whole package, and Steve knows it. And he's like, hell yes. He follows her into the war. In this time period, Steve is okay with her being a higher rank than him. Every other man is trying to belittle her because she's a woman. And she's British. That's pretty cool. But every other person in the military is like, you're a woman, so I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. And Steve is so okay with her being a higher rank than him, period. So we're going to take it back to the beginning of the movie to talk about Steve and Peggy's love story, because it runs a little bit deeper than Steve and Bucky's in this movie. The reason that I'm okay talking about Steve and Peggy's love as gay undertones, and it's not just because it's the love interest in the way that I was talking about it with Thor and Jane. I love Thor and Jane, okay? But I felt like I had to talk about it because they were the love interest. Peggy and Steve, however, their love for each other is gay. And I don't know how to describe it. And I feel like the people who get it, and the people who don't, and that's okay. But their love for each other is so beyond a straight couple. I don't know how to describe it. It's gay, okay? Take it or leave it. So the scene where everyone is trying to climb the pole and get to the flag, right? And that guy's like, no one's ever done it in so many blah, blah, blah years. No one can get it. And he's like, fall in line, soldiers. And Steve is like, no, I got this easy. And he takes the pin out and the thing falls and he grabs the flag and he's like, thank you. The scene itself, it gives me chills. I don't know why. I think it's just in the way that he thinks different than everybody else because he's not big and strong. And that's why they chose him, because he's able to think like a little guy, and he is kind because he didn't have the strength to be a dick, basically. So I really liked that. And I also really thought it was beautiful the way that Peggy is so proud of him and the like look back she gives him. Haley Atwell plays it so well. So when he's gotten to the base and he's training and everything and they go, grenade! And he jumps on the grenade and everybody's scared and he's like, get back, get back, get back. First of all, I say this with all due respect, Steve. We love you. What is that frail little skinny body gonna do around a grenade? It might absorb the impact a little bit, but he's like 90 pounds of like no muscle. It's just skin and bones. The thought was nice, Steve, but realistically, what is that doing? So then they announce it's a dummy grenade. And Steve is like, is this a test? Okay, yeah, obviously. And everyone is smiling at him because he passed the test. And Dr. Erskine is like, that's my boy. That's the one I picked. The way that Peggy, her smile is so warm. It just really, the way that she looks at him, she's so proud of him. She's like, what a guy. He's a good guy, genuinely. And watching it almost brought me to tears. I don't know why their love, this rewatch specifically, it really got me. Their love for each other. This time around, I don't know. So then Steve is chosen for the experiment and Peggy and Steve are they're in the car and they're on their way to the procedure. And they're talking about how Steve isn't around a lot of women and he's kind of really failing at talking to Peggy, but it's okay because she thinks he's cute and he's really sweet and he's a good guy. And they're talking about how he figured he'd wait for the right dance partner, right? And they're kind of bonding over that, and it's really sweet, and it's a really cute moment, and he's so small in that car next to her. They actually never got to dance, if you think about it really, and it hurts. And I'm not crying, but I might be, because what do you mean? Okay, I'll talk about it in a little bit once we move on to the story parts of the end, when he's crashing the plane, but like, they're so in love and they actually, okay, I have to talk about it later. I have to get past this. Okay. So now they're in the procedure room, right? And he's getting ready to be put in that little thing in the, I don't know, cocoon, whatever. And Peggy wants to stay with him. And Dr. Erskine is like, don't you think you'd be more comfortable in the booth? She's like, oh, yes, you're so right, I suppose. But then they start the procedure. Steve starts screaming. Peggy is the first to run out of the booth. It just gives me the most goosebumps because Peggy is so worried for him. She's so worried for her little boyfriend. And he's like, no, I can do it. I can do it. And I just know in that moment, Peggy was, first of all, obviously scared for him, right? He could be dying. We don't know. And then he's like, no, I can do it. And I know she was so proud of him. And she was probably really like, yeah, I picked a good guy, you know? So then the Nazi guy blows everything up, tries to take the serum. And all of the men run out and they're trying to get him. And they're missing with all of their guns and everything because they're just shooting willy-nilly. No one's aiming. I don't know why people don't aim in movies, but it's fine, whatever. Peggy is so badass because as everybody's missing and everything, she takes a moment, she breathes, she chills the fuck out, and she aims and she hits the driver of the car. First shot. Beautiful. What a power couple they are. However, it is a slow burn kind of in this movie because Steve doesn't know how to talk to women, as we've already said, and he's kind of dumb a little bit in this movie, and it's okay. We all are a little bit dumb sometimes, but he thinks that Peggy and Stark are fonduing. I say that in quotations, which is like literally just food that they're getting because they're hungry, because they're like in a war. So anyway, so they're in the plane, right? He's getting ready to be dropped down into Austria to pick up Bucky, right? And he asks Peggy if she really believes in him because he just needs that affirmation from his girl. That was beautiful. And then he's all jealous because he thinks that her and Stark are like a thing. They're together. They're doing something. Fonduing. They're fonduing each other, but they're not. Steve's just a little dumb and a little jealous and a little self-conscious and a little something. I don't know. Anyway, he just needed that reassurance from Peggy, and I thought that was beautiful because it's kind of like, I don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks I'm doing. If you think I can't do it, especially if I'm a super soldier, okay, and you think I can't do it, I don't really care. Unless I care about you, then I care. Then I'm like, do you think I can do it? So I thought that was really beautiful. And that shows how much they care for each other. Because everybody else is like, what the fuck are you going to do by yourself beyond enemy lines? And he's like, I could do it if I really wanted to. Like, watch me do it. But he does care what Peggy thinks. I feel if Peggy was like, I don't really think you can do it, Steve, he'd be like, you're probably right. I will stop this right now. He just really cares for her. And she cares for him because she does believe in him. I don't think it's because she's like, well, obviously you can do it. You have this great serum in your veins and you're so much stronger than everybody else. It's because she believes in him as a person and as the moral person that he is. Then Peggy goes back and she's getting her ass chewed out by the colonel. And she's like, I do not regret my actions, actually, because I love Steve and I have faith in my boy. What's beautiful is the sacrifices that everybody's making for their loved ones in this movie. In the way that Steve sacrifices himself for Bucky, Peggy sacrifices her job, her livelihood for Steve. Bucky sacrifices himself for everybody, I'd imagine. So just in general, and I've already started talking about this, but I'm gonna bring it back, okay? Peggy as a character, good God, the way that she is always looking at Steve, glancing at him, smiling at him with her eyes, doing that like little flirty eye thing. It gives me butterflies. It really does. And I don't know if it was just this rewatch because, you know, as I said, I haven't been with anybody in a long time. But oh my God, Hayley Atwell plays it so well. Literally I was really paying attention to this one because I was trying to figure out why I feel like they're gay enough. I don't know how to put it into words. It's a gut feeling, and I think it's the way that, if I had to explain it in a way, I think it's because of the way that Peggy looks at him. She looks at him with such deep love and admiration and respect. And Steve looks at her that way too, but I don't really care about the way Steve looks at her. The way that Hayley Atwell looks at him, like, oh my God, if I was Steve, I'd be in love with her too. Like, holy shit, are you kidding me? I just feel like straight people don't look at each other with as much love as Peggy and Steve are looking at each other. But speaking of Hayley Atwell, I remember when I was on the Marvel side of TikTok a few years ago, and there was some discourse about Hayley Atwell. I don't remember what the discourse was. I remember some people being like, she's an awful person. Why are you appreciating her? So I'm not saying that I love Hayley Atwell as an actor and I love her in everything that she's in, because I don't remember what the discourse was. But Peggy as a character, okay? And the way that Hayley Atwell plays Peggy, obsessed. I don't know anything about Haley Atwell as a person. I've not done any research on her, but I love Peggy. Okay. And that's allowed. Her character is fine as fuck. She's sweet. She's caring. She's a badass. And she is so good at being a leader. And I would follow her into war, probably. I don't even blame Steve for anything that he has done. Anyway, that fucking homewrecker, though, the little blonde bitch who's like, Steve, on behalf of all of America, I'm going to put my tongue down your throat because you're a war hero and you picked up all of those guys. My blood boils when I think about it because Steve didn't want that, but he's not used to women doing things. So he didn't know really how to respond to that. And I'm sure, if I'm being honest, I have been in a situation where I didn't really want to kiss somebody and they were kissing me and I was like, okay, and I kissed him back because what else do you do when you have anxiety and you don't know how to talk to women? So I don't blame Steve in this situation. I blame that little blonde homewrecker. It's her fucking fault. And then Peggy walks up and she says, looks like finding a partner wasn't that hard after all. What? So then they're looking at shields. Peggy's still fucking pissed at Steve for that. I would be too. So they're looking at shields and Steve's like, I really like this one. Peggy, what do you think? He's trying to build that bond back and Peggy shoots the shield. Oh my God. First of all, hot as fuck. I don't know what else to say. And I'm sorry, but not really because wow, I'm sweating thinking about it. But also I'm so happy that she got to take her anger out on him. That felt so healthy and it felt so good. And she smiled afterwards and she got over it and it's fine. And then Steve, she just shot at him and he's so head over heels for her that when he paints the shield, he leaves the bullet marks. I feel like they could have buffered them out. They could have sanded it down, something, right? No, he's taking her into war with him is what he's doing, basically. So then they're going back behind enemy lines after he's already taken all of the captured people out. They're sending back videos to the war side. I don't understand why they're doing that, but it's okay. And Steve's got the picture of Peggy in his compass. And it's so sweet. And they're looking at the footage. I know that Peggy got little butterflies when she saw her picture in the locket because, wow, that's so sweet. I wish that someone would put my picture in a little compass when they're in war. You know what I mean? Don't go to war. But also, you know, you get it. So anyway, and then she gives the colonel that little like side eye because she's like, I hope no one else saw that. But the camera zoomed into the compass. Okay, so everybody saw it, Peggy, sorry. Now I'm going to talk about the plane. After Schmidt has left, the Tesseract has taken him to Vormir, I'm assuming. I don't think he goes anywhere in between there and Vormir. Anyway, he's gone. Steve is like, I have to land this plane. I got to put her in the water. I'm literally getting chills. The pain in Peggy's voice when she's talking to him hurts me bad because she knows it's not looking good for him, but she still has hope. And he puts his compass, the picture of her on the navigation thing, and they're talking about how he needs a rain check on the dance. And they're planning everything out. They're planning the rain check. They're like, this day we're going to go. You better meet me at this time. Peggy's like, you better be there. And Steve is like, yeah, we'll have them play something slow. I still don't know how to dance. And Peggy's like, it's okay. Oh my God. I actually cry every time at this scene because something about the way that they are making future plans and they know it's not going to be fulfilled. Both of them, obviously, right? He's literally landing a plane into like freezing cold fucking waters. Thank God he's a super soldier. Oh my God, poor Peggy. Steve gets to wake up the next day for him. Yes, it was 70 years later, but for him, it feels like the next day. Okay, so he doesn't have to live 70 years without Peggy. If you really think about it, like, yes, he lives his lifetime without Peggy. When everything changes, I feel like it's easier, not necessarily to move on, because we all know he never moved on from Peggy, and I don't blame him. But I think it's easier to put it into perspective, the feeling of pain that he has for not being able to see Peggy. And he knows that she lived a long and fruitful life, probably. That hurts. But what hurts me more is that Peggy did live 70 years without Steve. She lived 70 years thinking Steve was dead in the water. I think that's worse. I think it's worse not knowing. I think it's worse living 70 years having to move on after they never got to dance. Holy shit. And thinking he's dead. Steve knows that Peggy lived. He knows that she lived a long and beautiful 70 years. But It hurts every time I watch it. So he's talking about how he's going to land the plane and everything. They're talking about their dance, and the comms go silent on Steve's end because he has made impact, right? And Peggy's going, Steve? Steve? Oh my God. I'm literally going to cry thinking about it. Stop. It's so unfair. They never got to dance, you guys. It's actually fucked. So then at the end of the movie, right, Steve's woken up and he's running out to Times Square and Nick Fury's talking to him and Steve's like, I missed my date. First of all, fuck no. There's no fucking way. I've just woken up 70 years later and I realized that I never got to dance with the love of my life. She's probably dead. I just am all stoic in Times Square, which I've never seen before. And I'm like, I missed a date. No, the fuck I'm not. I'm falling to the ground and sobbing my eyes out for 15 fucking years. Are you kidding me? Nick would have to carry me off of the fucking road. You're not going to be that fucking stoic about it. He's lying. He's a damn good actor. Speaking of that, because there's no fucking way that he would be that fucking stoic. Logic hole, I would say. So we're going to move on to the logic holes. I have a lot of little logic holes and logical things that I wanted to talk about. First one, starting at the beginning of the movie, I wonder how the Tesseract went from Odin's treasure room to Norway in 1942. I'm just not understanding how that works. Like, who took it to Earth? I just want to know. I think it's not important, but I'm curious. So also, the Stark Expo. We get to see the OG Stark Expo. And that's really cool after having just watched Iron Man 2 when he revamps it. And then, hey, new Howard. He looks nothing like the old Howard. The younger version of him, I just feel like, I don't know if it's that neither of them look like Tony. I think the younger one looks closer to Tony. Maybe it's just the facial hair and the dark hair and everything. But I think if you're going to cast an older and younger version, they should look like each other. I don't know if this is just a me thing. Maybe I'm not seeing it, but I don't think they look alike at all. It took me a really long time to realize that they were both Howard Stark, actually, because they don't look alike to me. So anyway, I hated that. But OG Stark Expo, that was cool. And also, I've already talked about this a little bit, but the concept of the super soldier serum, I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I understand why everybody's trying to recreate it. I'm kind of obsessed with the way that Steve got picked as well, because he's weak, but he knows compassion. So I'm kind of obsessed with that. I'm kind of obsessed in the way that the super soldier serum doesn't just make your muscles bigger. It doesn't just enhance your reflexes, your running, whatever. It enhances everything. And I think that's a really cool and important thing to keep in mind when people keep trying to recreate the super soldier serum. When we look at how Schmidt's failed, when we were looking at Blonsky in the Hulk, I think it's such an important concept. And I think it's a really cool idea. I like that in so many MCU projects, a lot of it's talking about the super soldier serum and somebody's trying to recreate it because they're trying to use it as a biological weapon. And they fail so often. This one, I'm just not understanding technology-wise Hydra's advanced technology. And then also the way that they've made a face mask for Schmidt that looks like a person and there's nothing wrong with it. I know that the way that they've done it in the movie is that they just didn't put makeup on him at first and then they put special effects on him to be Red Skull. But the way that the mask, there's nothing wrong with it at all, that was hard for me to wrap my head around in Nazi Germany in 1940, whatever. I liked the way that when Schmidt and Steve were fighting, when it was like fiery in the little thing that Schmidt was working on, and he punches him and the mask is kind of slipping. I like the way that there's red underneath and then he throws the mask down into the fire. Cinematic. But I don't understand how the mask is that good. Within the Hydra technology, the mask is really fucking good. But also, I'm not understanding how the guy at the beginning, he's in the booth and he blows it up with the Zippo lighter, which probably ignites the bomb. But then he also uses the Zippo lighter to ignite another bomb in a car, blows the car up. And then he also uses the Zippo lighter to start his personal submarine. Like, are there 3 different buttons in the Zippo lighter and you have to be within range? Or like, I don't understand how that works 3 different times. Does he have 3 different Zippos? I don't get it, but it's okay. Whatever. Maybe I'm not like as smart as a Nazi. It's fine. So also, logically, the big ass American flag shield is not subtle. And when Steve is breaking into Hydra territory, he's going to go get Bucky, and he's sneaking around in his Captain America uniform and that big fucking American flag shield. I know it's dark, but there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way he's blending in with that. And he's just running across the field with this giant shield on his back? No. No, the fuck he's not. Why? Okay, if he is, why is every Hydra agent so unaware in time of war? So then they're all going back into Hydra territory, and it's all of the soldiers this time, right? And the colonel's in there, and Steve's in there, and Peggy's in there, and they're all running in with helmets, guns, I don't know, military uniform. I'd imagine they've got combat boots and whatever. And Peggy's running in, hair down, by the way. I know her hair's not long, but it's down. Girl, put that shit up. And then also, no helmet, no big gun, no military uniform. I don't know if it was like a sexist thing in the way of like, you're not gonna come with us, so we're not gonna give you a helmet. And she's like, no, I'm fucking going with you because my boyfriend's in there. Or if it was just like she wanted to look good for Steve, or we didn't think that far ahead and it's more in terms of she was supposed to look good on screen. No one thought about the way that she's not wearing a helmet into like a battle. But I didn't like that. I didn't like that her hair is down and she's not wearing a helmet. She doesn't have any of the weapons that everybody else has. I would like to say, this is the story that makes the most sense to me, that everybody was getting ready. They were gearing up. They were getting in the trucks or whatever. And Peggy's like, I'm going with you. And they're like, no, the fuck you're not. And she's like, yes, the fuck I am. And they just didn't give her any gear. I think that's the story I'm going to have to go with because that's the one that makes the most sense to me. So there's that. They're in the plane now. Picture it with me. Schmidt and Steve. And actually, before Steve is even fighting Schmidt, he's trying to stop the bombers in the little planes on the big plane. One's going to New York. One is going to somewhere else. I don't remember where they're going. I'm so sorry. But he's trying to stop those people first. And they're opening the things where the plane drops. And he's blowing holes in the ship. Stop blowing holes in my ship. Anyway. He's a super soldier, so I'll put it past him. And the guys are wearing masks, but I feel like the pressure change of the plane does something. Am I wrong? I don't know how planes work, but I feel like in every movie I've seen where they open the door of the plane, it changes the pressure and you get like pulled out. They're blowing holes in it when Schmidt and Steve are fighting, and maybe it's because they're both super soldiers that the air pressure doesn't bother them, but I feel like it would do something to them, and they just don't seem bothered by it at all. Like no one's freaking out about that, and I thought that was odd, but maybe it's because I don't understand how planes work. Could just be me. Anyway, so then they're fighting. The Tesseract melts through the plane, and Schmidt goes to Vormir. I don't understand. It might be like a comic book thing. I didn't read any of the comic books, so I might be missing information here. But I'm not understanding how or why the Tesseract took the Red Skull to Vormir. And like, it's a good thing for the world's sake that it took him away because he was trying to rule the world and bomb New York. But it was a punishment. But who was there before him? Was there no one? Like, if I had tried to go and get the Soul Stone before 1940, whatever, like, who was there? Or was there no one there? How would I know that I have to kill somebody? Do I get to just have it without killing my best friend? I just don't understand. Maybe I'll find a comic book about it. So if anybody knows about a comic book about this, like, it actually really is getting to me. I don't understand any of that aspect of any of it. Or if y'all want to just comment without me having to read a comic book, that's ideal. So I don't have to go buy the comic book. But that just really bothered me. Yeah. Anyway, so Steve has put the plane in the water, and Howard is trying to find his dead body like crazy. And then he does find him for S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything, and he gets put into S.H.I.E.L.D. But I like that later on in the MCU, Iron Man is always like bitter with Steve about how much his dad loved him. I thought it was really funny, and I thought it was really interesting the way that Tony is bitter because Steve is like a big part of Howard Stark's life. And he did look for him for a really long time. But I imagine that when Tony was growing up, Howard was still looking for Steve. It probably was really fucking annoying for Tony. And then to have to work with him later. Imagine your parents are neglecting you, as Tony felt, and they're doing it because they're looking for their best friend. And he talks so highly of Steve because he's a super soldier and he's such a good guy and he saved the war and everything. He keeps looking for him all this time throughout your childhood, and then suddenly you're an adult and they found him, this guy that your dad's been harping about forever, and now you have to work with him and your dad's dead. That's it, I guess. Just picture it for a little bit because I feel bad for Tony a little bit. And then also when he does get brought back and he's in that little room and the baseball game's playing over the radio, how convenient is it that it happens to be the one fucking game that Steve went to? I'd imagine he didn't go to a lot of baseball games in his day. Maybe he did. How convenient that it's the one he was at and he remembers it happening. And the drama in that scene is so good too, because he's like, I don't trust you. Maybe it's a Nazi trick. Maybe we're still in the wartime. And then bam, he's in Times Square in New York City in, 2012? Cinematic. And then imagine you're in Times Square. You've never seen it before like this in 2012. And somebody tells you that you've been asleep for 70 years. And everybody you know and love is probably dead because of old age or the war. The panic attack that would send me into is unmatched. He's too stoic, both in terms of Peggy not being able to dance with her and also skipping 70 years. Like, how do you live after that? How do you just keep going? Anyway, I have to not think about it anymore because I am going to actually have a panic attack. So we're going to move on to technicalities. The CGI of skinny Steve Rogers is so goofy. Because what they did, they got a little skinny 90-pound boy and they put Chris Evans' face on him, but they slimmed out his face as well. So the way that his face moves is a little bit glitchy. But it's just so silly to see Chris Evans like that, I think, because he's so small compared to how big he actually is, and like short and skinny. It's just so interesting because to see him in the car next to Peggy and to see how little he is in that giant cocoon thing and then how big he is when he pops out. Wow. And then this is alleged because I didn't do my research. This is just what I've heard. So if I'm wrong, don't come after me. But when he does pop out of that cocoon thing, and he's glistening and he's got these big fucking muscles and Peggy comes up and she's breathing all hard. When she touches his chest, I heard that was not scripted. That was Haley Atwell being like, stunning, beautiful creature. She had to just like touch his chest. I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard. Anyway, another thing, while I'm on the allegedly, the scene after that where Steve is chasing that car down the street, I heard that. And I think this one is true because I can kind of tell, I can kind of see it. Only if you're looking for it. He had boots that were painted to look like his feet so he wouldn't hurt himself on the ground. And I could be wrong, but I really think that's true. And I thought that was really interesting. That was a really cool little thing to look for. I always look for it when I'm watching it. I feel like you can see it when you are looking for it. But I thought that was really clever of the team. So the last thing I have, technicality wise, is Steve as a character. I love that he's so willing to keep standing up no matter how much he gets beat down. I love that he doesn't like a bully. I love that he isn't going to war to kill people. He's going to war to stand up for the little people. This is a quote I've written down and I really liked it. He says, "There are men laying down their lives and I've got no right to do any less than them." And I think we should all really take that to heart. And he's also like, I can do this all day. That's his catchphrase, right? I really like that as a concept. Also, I really like his shield being an extension of him. I think the shield as a concept is really fucking cool too. Not only is it just a shield, it's also a frisbee that hits people and it comes back. It's also a symbol of America. Also imagine how powerful Steve has to be to throw it like that and then catch it. And I know he feels cool as fuck because that's badass. So anyway, The most chaotic moment, I love this scene so much. It's where Schmidt has gotten into the plane and Steve is trying to run after him, and the colonel has a car, and Steve gets in the car, and Peggy's in the back of the car. First of all, I like to think that the colonel was like, I'm going to get this car, I'm going to go pick up Steve. And Peggy's like, no, take me with you, please. And I like that she did that because that's the last fucking time they see each other. So anyway, they're chasing after the car. The car goes turbo speed, and Steve's ready to jump on the plane, and Peggy's like, wait! And they kiss. I think in this movie I am biased, but in every other movie, the way that I'd be like, girl, now is not the time. Get your tongue out of his mouth. But thank God she took the time to be like, wait, I have to kiss you, because that was the last time they saw each other. If she hadn't, they never would have kissed. And I think that's something. I think that's worth the buildup. And I think it's really sad that they never got to dance. But I think that at least they had that moment together. So anyway, the chaos of the plane taking off, the car is in turbo speed. Peggy's like, wait, I have to kiss you real quick. And then Steve looks over at the colonel, and the colonel's like, I'm not going to give you a kiss. And then he has to jump on the plane. And then they have to really quickly turn the car around before they fall off the fucking cliff. The chaos in that scene is actually insane. And then the car is like teetering off the cliff, and Peggy stands up in the back. I just feel like that was not a good idea. The way that I would have run out of that car before it fell off the cliff. I just really am so scared of that. But anyway, she stands up to go see that he made it or whatever in the plane. It's chaos. Not even just in that scene, just in general. And I just want to bring it back real quick because I really can't get over it. It's so flattering the way that she carries herself. She's so badass. She's so beautiful. She loves Steve so much. And I just really want everybody to take a second and appreciate that. So anyway, I'm going to end with a quote. Well, I have two quotes because, I don't know, this is like a quote goldmine, this movie. It's just so full of little bits that I love. So anyway, the first one is when Bucky's like, don't do anything stupid till I get back. And Steve's like, how can I? You're taking all the stupid with you. I really like that because they love each other and they're just kind of teasing each other. And I thought it was really cute and it was really sweet and it was really funny. The second one, I know that it's from Hydra and I know that they are a Nazi subgroup and I don't appreciate what they're doing, obviously, but I do like the concept of cut off one head and two more shall take its place. I like the idea that they have taken this thing, a Hydra, which is a mythical creature, and they're just really embodying what that is. And they're really like, if you kill me, I know that two more people will avenge me. I know that this is a party that is growing. I know that Hydra is getting bigger. And the more you take us down, the more we will survive. So anyway, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you would like to follow me on anything, I am on Instagram and on TikTok as PHILM If you are listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, just know that this podcast does exist on both as Philm Phuckery with a PH for both. If you are enjoying this podcast, it would help me out if you were able to share it with people or like and subscribe and comment and whatever else. And I will see you all next week for the Avengers. I'm actually really excited for this one because this is when it all comes together. Anyway, I hope that you have a good day. I hope you have a good week, and I will see you next Tuesday. That's it. Okay, bye.